Imagine living your life after 50 and feeling energized and excited about your future. Welcome to the Women in the Middle podcast, the podcast for women who are ready to figure out what they want and create the life they deserve. Here's your host and Master Certified Life Coach, Susie Rosenstein.
Hey there, in today's episode, I'm going to introduce you to a woman in the middle who had the courage to pursue happiness at work and in life. Let's go. Welcome back to the podcast Women in the Middle with over 1 million downloads and counting. I'm your host, Susie Rosenstein, your Master Certified Coach and Midlife Mentor, and I'm so glad to be here with you again. I really am. I am freezing right now, I have to say, but I am happy to turn the mic on and be here with you. Okay, I had so much fun with today's guest, Nadina Cojocaru. First, she's a veterinarian, and I just love the opportunity to talk about animals with an expert. But Nadina's expertise is more than that. She basically helps pets and vets lose weight and be happier. Seriously, that is pretty interesting stuff, and I can't wait to dive in. But just quick, before we dive into this episode and you meet my amazing guest, I wanted to make sure you heard about the exciting new podcast that I'll be launching soon called Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs. So if you're a woman in the middle who's 50 plus and also an entrepreneur or business owner, this new podcast is especially for you. This show will be focused on what it's really like to run a business when you're over 50 and dealing with the classic midlife-related obstacles and challenges. Things like taking care of your aging parents, empty nest, menopause, lack of self-care, and work-life balance, that sort of stuff, all the things. When all this stuff comes up, it can be harder to focus on your priorities, if you even know what they are anymore. You can start to worry that you'll have regrets because you're not fulfilled, and you know you're meant for more. I'm interested in talking to all kinds of business owners too, from solopreneurs and small businesses to those of you who might even have employees, bricks and mortar businesses too. In fact, I really want to find guests who do a wide variety of things and not necessarily work with women our age. I want to make sure we interview entrepreneurs with, like I said, a wide variety of experiences. So if this sounds good, if you're interested in learning more about how to be a guest on the new show, head over to www.midlifeinterviews.com and apply. There's lots more information there so you can see if you're a good fit for the show. Okay, let me introduce you to my amazing guest today. Her name is Dr. Nadina Cojocaru. Nadina is what she calls a vet coach. That is, a small animal veterinarian and a certified life and weight coach. Her story is fascinating and a little different, and quite frankly, full of lots of pretty big challenges. Growing up in communist Romania, Nadina went from not knowing where the next meal would come from to an abundance of food in the early 90s when communism fell. This kick-started her career as a professional dieter, all while trying to find her place in then a male-dominated profession. The shift around weight-related issues came for Nadina when she made the connection between her thoughts and feelings and learned how our brains work. She said goodbye to emotional eating and rediscovered the sparkles and the giggles in her relationship with her body, the food, and the vet profession. Nadina currently lives in Sweden, where she works as a small animal veterinarian and as a life coach. Through her life coaching, she's been able to help people from over 20 countries. Nadina provides the practical tools for vets just like herself to beat the burnout, the stress, and create a sustainable life that they love, and she has a lot of fun while doing it too. Some pounds might even get lost in the process. Her deep passion for her patients, the animals, and how brains work ignited the idea for her latest training called Stop Emotionally Overfeeding the Pets. The training will support dogs and cats owners in dealing with the emotional challenge of helping their beloved pets achieve their natural healthy weight too. Pretty interesting, right? I know you're going to love this interview, so enjoy. Hi, Nadina. Thanks so much for joining us today on the Women in the Middle podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I'm so delighted to be here.
I am delighted to be here too. I have always been fascinated by what you do, being a vet and then being a coach who works with veterinarians. And now today, we're going to talk about how all of this stuff started to change for you and develop and to become more specifically what you love in your 40s in particular. So we're going to get into all of that. But what I saw recently in your Facebook posts and stuff, as of course I follow you, that you're specifically addressing the topic of emotionally overfeeding your pets. When I saw that, I'm like, oh my God, we totally have to talk about that because who is not guilty of that?
Exactly. It's like, so everybody is guilty of that.
For sure. So we're going to get into that. But first, I want to hear a little bit about your personal story, your journey of, really continuing to figure out what you love and following in that direction. So let's start with what wasn't going well for you. Why were you stuck? And actually, it's kind of how we ended up meeting each other. So just go into that. What was life like for you as a veterinarian and when you started to look a little bit deeper at other things you knew you needed in your life?
Yes. So first, I think I haven't mentioned that much, but I think my real first middle life crisis was happening when I was 25 years old. You can believe that.
I totally get it. What was happening?
Because I was, at that point, I was studying to become a human vet. And I did, in Romania, you are, the school system is like you are going through high school. And then after high school, 4 years of high school, then you are taking a big exam and go to university. So, and in university is like 6 years for doctors to become doctors. So I was in my 4th year as a student, and I was like, I cannot do this anymore.
Being a human doctor?
Yes.
I don't think I knew that.
Yes. So I think I've realized today that I haven't mentioned that because it was in my 20s, but I think that is my real midlife crisis because that brought a lot of shame, a lot of, stuckness. I was like, feeling that I'm drowning. That was my definitely that was my biggest life crisis. To be able to say no because I felt that I didn't belong there.
Wow. That was so good. Good that you noticed it. That's what's good about it. It's not good when you're when you feel like you're drowning.
No,
that's not good.
Especially not in Romania where you are not supposed to fail when you are like, a 10 grade, which is like A+ student all the time, and you are doing all the things right. And then suddenly you are like, I almost finished. I mean, I finished the 4th year and I had just 2 years left of the med school. And I was like, no, I am not doing that.
Well,
I dropped from it.
I think today they call that a quarter life crisis. And it certainly has so much in common with the classic, what most of us mean when we say midlife crisis, which is really just checking in with your identity again, because something's off and it is painful. And it's amazing to me that you had enough courage to connect with that and not ignore it. And so also what that establishes is that you're smarty pants.
And that was my problem actually because I wanted to become a veterinarian, but in Romania it was easy to go to vet school. It was not so easy to go out of the vet school. That's another story. But it was really easy. The exams subjects were not that complicated, and all the cool kids, all the smarty pants kids would go to med school, which involved like advanced physics, advanced biology, advanced organic chemistry, all advanced mathematics to be able to solve all those physics problems and so on. So being the smarty pants didn't serve me because I was like, I'm too smart to go there,
Oh my gosh. You know what? That is bringing something up for me. I remember I went to a really big high school and it was huge. And it was so rich with resources and opportunities. It had a planetarium. It had a whole, studio art wing. And I remember in grade 9, I was researching, we have to do careers unit in grade 9. And I remember putting down commercial art. And commercial art, I guess, evolved into graphic design. I guess, like it was so long ago. That was in the 70s. And I remember thinking, wow, I'm so fascinated. I'd always been fascinated with paper and printing and calligraphy and letters. And I remember thinking that smart people, I can't believe this was a thought, because obviously it's not true. Just what you're also noticing, that smart people don't do that I needed to do something more academic.
Yes.
It was so ridiculous. And what has happened, which is, I have a feeling what happened with you, is that haunted me. My whole life, I was drawn to being more creative and to do more creative things. And boy, I had gone to such a great high school with so many opportunities. And I never until the last few years took a single art course. And that urge to be more creative was there my whole life. And so I love that you pointed this out, that you noticed that you had a thought that wasn't what you should be doing.
Yes. And I think I didn't know back then, but I felt a full body no. Every time I went to and entered a hospital or something, like full body no. Like my hair, all the like goosebumps all over my spine. I was like really rejecting it. My body was like, I don't want to be here. What are you doing?
Oh, a full body no. I love that. Again, it's not fun to be in as much pain as you were in with the goosebumps and everything, but at least you noticed it. Your body was screaming and you noticed. That can't be taken for granted.
No, exactly.
It really can't.
Yeah. So after that, I said, okay, who can I share this with? And the person that I shared it with was my husband. I married really young, so we celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary this year.
Amazing! Congratulations!
Thank you. And I said, like, I cannot do this. So I have to drop everything and then to take the exam for the vet school. And they were not recognizing any courses. So I had to start from scratch. So, okay, bring it on.
Wait, how old were you then?
25.
I can't believe that they didn't recognize anything, because I would imagine it's medicine and the core stuff should be the same. Wow. So interesting. That's a hard no.
Yes. So it was, no, let's start with from the beginning with the exam and everything. And I was like, okay, bring it on. I can do that. So, of course, that felt like home for me, and everything was so delightful. And I went in like the highest grade, graduating top of my class, of course, because I was yep, bring it on. So
I love that you used the word delightful. I mean, honestly, that is such a beautiful way to describe what you were noticing about how comfortable and happy you were.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. So it was really, really amazing to become a vet and to deal with the animals. And it was, I think, then after graduating top of my class, then the politics came in of course.
What do you mean?
In Romania.
Oh.
Because even if I was told repeatedly by my professors or the assistant professors that were working with me, like, oh my God, you are the best student that we met in like 20 years, because you have that theoretical mindset. You can learn, you can study, you can, your books. You are attached to your books and you know the content of your books, but you can connect with the animals, and you are actually a great clinician and a great surgeon and everything. So that is so rare, to witness in a student, because usually people are like really high in theory, really abstract notions, reciting the books, but not with the side really dialed in, especially throughout vet school. But they told me repeatedly that, and yet at the end of the university, there was no place for me, no teaching position for me, no PhD position for me, because I wasn't somebody's daughter, I wasn't somebody's cousin, I wasn't somebody's
Wow.
and that was really, really hurtful for me and really painful. So, and probably I had a big mouth, that meaning that I was not, I was speaking my truth. And if something was off, because I was so smart and because I knew that they can't make me fail, I spoke, I reversed, I had a fight, quote unquote fight with our physiology professor because they had like grading our exams, our written exams with multiple choice type of questions, and I knew exactly that I haven't done anything wrong in those. And then I got a grade that was not reflecting that. And I was like, your correcting grid is wrong. And they were like, are you insane? Are you going to pick a fight with that professor? Like, yep, watch me.
Wow. Where did this courage and boldness come from?
I knew my shit.
Because you've really done some you really had to do some stuff that required a lot of courage.
Yes.
Just in these couple of stories and that giant decision you made to ditch medicine and to start over. A lot of people would have said, forget it at that point, but you're like, bring it on, right? You're nothing's getting in my way. And you were pretty young yet. What happens to a lot of people is that the quote, I'm doing air quotes, that the midlife crisis doesn't always happen in midlife. And I typically see it with people who've had very intense careers or intense education, like exactly what you were doing in medicine or anything where it's like really immersive and really intense. It can bring on one of these wake up calls.
Yeah.
Jarring insight things earlier.
Or a really difficult childhood in communist Romania as well.
Right.
That might be also a reason why I was able to be courageous. When I was a kid, that was a really vivid memory for me. I was in kindergarten, so it was 3.5 years old. I have really vivid memories of my really young version of myself. And I was really shy and I was bilingual because my grandparents from my maternal side were Russians. So I was raised by them. So I was bilingual. I was speaking fluently Russian at that point and Romanian. And I knew that we had a really mean kindergarten teacher and she was really punishing us. I mean, physically abusing and would be called today, spanking and punishing us and really, really mean. And I refused to talk to her because I knew that I would be punished because I wouldn't pronounce the things correctly. And I refused basically to interact with her. And she took my mother on the side when my mom picked me up, and she told my mom that I was, and I would quote her, called me retarded. That was the exact word that she used. And I'm unable to speak, and I am challenged. So I belong to an institution for kids that are retarded, which meant in communist Romania, if somebody recalls that, like orphanages and those institutions for kids were like all over the internet when Ceausescu died, that meant being chained on a bed.
God.
not seeing the light of the day, basically. So my mom was like freaked out because all the pieces were in motion. She reported to the Communist Party that kid was not where she's supposed to be. And my mom, I remember my mom was so terrified. It was like, what, crying, like, why aren't you speaking with her? You cannot stop talking at home. What's happening? And I was like, she's mean.
Like, my mouth is hanging on the floor as you're telling this story. So you had nerve as a small child.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And then that was the point when in that small kid's head, I made the decision, retarded, watch me, bitch. That was literally what I was thinking.
Wow.
And from that moment on, the nails in the palm of my hands, like being afraid and feeling that fear and do it anyhow, over and over again. And I learned to read and write by myself from my older brother's books. And I was supposed to learn a poem for our winter celebration. And my mom went to stir in the pot while she was teaching me. And when she came back, I learned I think 10 more verses from that. And she was like, have you been rehearsing that with your grandpa? Like, no, I can read that,
Oh my gosh. What a story. What a story.
That was the moment when I became courageous,
It's unbelievable that you can pinpoint it like that. And what a powerful story. I can't even imagine the fear that your mother had, because she knew that wasn't you, but it must have felt so out of control.
And she knew how much she had to, how many strings she had to pull to get me out of that institution thing. But it went well. It was okay, but it's still lingering. If that is so fascinating, because I recall when I discovered coaching and I was in Self-Coaching Scholars, you were my first one-on-one coach.
Oh my gosh. So we're going back to, what is that, 2017?
Yes.
Wow.
And then what was the first thing that you coached me on? My accent.
I remember that.
It's like, oh my God, that is coming back again with a vengeance over and over again. That accent thing, that, not being able to speak perfectly.
Wow. And so what was your biggest fear at that time when you reached out for coaching about your accent? Why was that coachable for you?
Because I had this thought in my head that if you speak with an accent or you make grammar mistakes while you are speaking, people will believe you're stupid.
Oh.
Or you will be put away. So you had to be perfect in order for people to accept you or to be a life coach, which was not necessarily a problem for me as a veterinarian, because I moved to Sweden after that flop with not being accepted in as a teaching position at the university. I just took a regular job and I did my things. At that point in Romania, veterinary profession was a male-dominated profession, so I was like the black sheep. And for over a year, my boss, who is an amazing guy, amazing guy, had to tell his clients that he was doing the surgeries, not me, because he was the male and the women are not good surgeons. And for sure, that young one, the latest, she.
What year was that?
That was in 2006, I think.
Wow. So, it's just fascinating. I mean, I know that you have an immigrant story as well. That's part of your story. And I certainly don't understand the culture of the places that you live and that you've lived. But that this stuff about being a woman and being less talented, less capable was still very much a part of your story. Wow.
Yes. Yes. So after that, a year went by, and he was like, at some point, he was like, this is getting ridiculous. You don't want me to do surgery on your dog. So she is doing all the surgeries, so just so you know. So it was not necessarily his fault, but that was really interesting. And this is a pattern that is seen in veterinary medicine still,
Wow.
where the male doctors get more benefits, they get bigger salaries, they are looked up, in a different way, and especially, unfortunately, by other women. But that's another story.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So let's carry on with your journey, because I could talk to you all day. So even with your accent, I could talk to you all day, because it doesn't matter.
Yes. Isn't that fascinating, Susie? And so you can understand what I'm saying. That is
I
also
understand completely. So with Self-Coaching Scholars, why did you join? Was that your first experience? If you don't know, as a listener right now, Self-Coaching Scholars is a program at the Life Coach School, which is where I trained, and I was one of the coaches in life right when it opened.
Yes.
Back in 2017, and that's where we met. But why were you looking? Why were you looking for coaching?
So I think what brought me to coaching was my weight journey, if I can define it like that, because I was never severely overweight, but I struggled with my weight my whole life. So I was like the leanest in our family, but I was still struggling immensely with keeping the things in that way, and chasing the new diet and chasing the new thing. I did all the things. I was trying all the things. The only thing that I didn't try, because that was like, that's bananas, I cannot live like that, was to try those shakes. You drink a shake for lunch, you drink a shake for dinner, and that is like, no, we are not doing that. That is just stupid. But all the other things, in early 90s with all body image things with Kate Moss, and I'm tall, that I'm tall.
You are very tall.
I'm 5'9", and I had the height, but I was not like 90, 60, 90 type of body. I was pretty normal human body, but not the top model body. So I had all those body image, like, oh, if you just can lose a little bit more weight, then you will be happy. We know all that thing. And chasing those diets, I came across YouTube channel with healthy recipes, and the lady who is doing that YouTube channel, and she has a website as well. She mentioned that she was a nutritionist and a life coach, and at some point she mentioned that she was trained by Brooke Castillo. And I was like, what is that? What is life coaching? And then I Googled Brooke Castillo, and then I found the podcast. And that moment, my life was like, just, my brain was all over the place. I remember vividly what I was doing when I realized that thoughts create emotions. It was long summer night, because Sweden. And it was like 11 p.m. and I was by my pear tree, and Brooke Castillo just said it in a way that resonated with me at that point. And my mind was like, what do you mean, like, thoughts create emotions, and the way we think influence everything else in our lives? And everything clicked into place at that point, because I always loved to be a vet. I always loved to work as a vet. I worked crazy shifts. I worked crazy hours. I was doing a lot of extra shifts and extra hours. Not recommended, but I was doing that. And all my colleagues were like, you will get burnout. You will get sick. What is happening? And I was watching what is happening with them. And I was telling them, no, I don't think that it will happen. No, I don't think that it will happen because, but I couldn't understand why. I was really sure that that is not something that will happen to me. And when I discovered the lens that I was using to look at my life and the lens they were using to look at the vet profession, they're like, oh, that's the difference, because it's nothing different between me and you, but you are thinking all those negative thoughts and you are picking, the circumstances are the same. The facts are the same, but the way I interpret everything is different, and not in the silver lining kind of way, but really deeply choosing what is useful for me in this situation right now. What is useful for me to think about the situation that I look at right now.
Yeah, exactly. So, big difference.
Exactly. And at that point, I said, I have to share this type of mindset with my colleagues, because it is a profession that is really, really intensely plagued or tortured by a lot of depression, a lot of suicide ideation, a lot of suicidal thoughts, and one of the highest rate of suicide from all the other professions in the Western world. And that is definitely based on those. For the first, that is my theory, is we as veterinarians, we are empathic people, because you cannot be a good vet if you are not resonating with the animal. You have to read, quote unquote, read the animal and to read their behaviors and to connect with that animal. That requires, because they are not speaking, by the way, and that requires a specific kind of person to be able to do that. And those who are not that type of person, those are not that good vets. That's for sure. So having that ability of empathy and connection with the pet, and the friction that can come in after the interaction with the pet owners, that creates a big problem in this profession. And I encourage everybody to just please pour some love on your vets, because they are amazing people.
They are amazing people. As a long-term permanent,
yes,
like I've always had animals in my life, and I always will have animals in my life. And some of the best and worst, emotional situations with the animals have been shared with my vets.
Yeah.
And thank God for vets.
Yes.
So as I can, as I'm looking at your life and your transition to really leaning into work that you love, two main things happened. You found a career direction that was more in alignment with your comfort and your excitement.
Yeah.
And also you found, through your frustration with weight, you got insight into the magic of mindfulness and the possibilities and insights that can be created from coaching.
Yeah.
And so those two things kind of gave you this epiphany that you could apply everything that you're learning about mindfulness to the careers of veterinarians.
Yeah.
And that's like a very creative way to think, to apply this kind of stuff to this kind of problem.
Yes. Yeah.
And then that gave you some direction. So then what happened next?
Yeah. So I usually tell my clients that knowing what I know about our profession, they come to me for weight loss and to help them with their weight. And I always tell them that I am so thankful for those extra kilograms or pounds on their bodies, because if they didn't have other tools beside food and or booze, alcohol, to deal with their negative emotions, and that was what kept them alive until now, I'm so thankful for those extra pounds, because I rather have them alive and still functioning as veterinarians than to get out of the profession or check out from this life entirely if they wouldn't use those tools.
Yeah, that is such an important realization for them.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they used coping.
Yes.
The way they were thinking about coping and dealing with stress,
yes,
as they were thinking about it, was the worst thing ever. Like they're a failure, most likely, right?
Exactly.
And then you're saying, no, this is keeping you alive because this is difficult.
This is difficult. And that is the tool that you had at that point. Now it's time to learn new tools and to let go of some of them, some of the old tools. We are evolving. We are learning new tools all the time in vet profession as well. So that is what I offer them, and I want to offer everybody. Like, if you are overweight, it's okay. It's just a tool that you used until now to deal with stress or unwanted emotions. It's nothing to be ashamed of or be judgmental about, or it's just some fat tissue on your body. It's nothing wrong with that. It's a perfectly normal functioning tissue on your body. It's just doing its job. So as I said, I think the fat tissue on human bodies is the most bullied tissue on the planet.
Poor tissue.
Yes, it's like you never heard about somebody tell like, oh, I hate my liver because my liver is doesn't have the right color. No, just because. But we are doing that with our skin. We're doing that with our fat tissue, even if they are like perfectly normal functioning tissues. So
it's keeping it all together, literally.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Keeping everything together and give us food if we are needing that. So from this passion, observing all those dynamics with food and emotions and seeing over and over again this trend in humans in general, in pet owners, I recognize the pattern like, okay. And that is happening even with veterinarians and even with my veterinarian clients. So they might learn those tools of dealing with emotions, and they are still overfeeding their pets. So
let's talk about that. So if you're listening right now, raise your hand if you know what it's like to overfeed your pet. I'm thinking back to my cat, the first cat that I had as an adult. I got my cat in grad school. He was a fat orange Well, he wasn't fat when I got him. He was a cute little kitten. He was an orange tabby. His name was Hundleby, affectionately named after my statistics professor back then, whose daughter had a cat who had kittens, and I adopted one of those kittens. Hundleby lived till 20. 3 of those years, he did need IV fluids and some things. He needed some support, which my husband married into, and he handled beautifully.
Yeah.
But in his healthy, feisty years, he was fat. He was definitely fat. And I suppose I'm guilty of that. And now I have a dog who's a picky eater. Nico is picky. And a lot of times I'm complaining to the vet. Like, I feel like a Jewish mother. I'm like, I don't think he's eating enough. I think he's too thin. I think we need to feed him a little bit more. And in that case, I'm usually right. He is a little underweight, but he's a large breed. So we need to really, really be careful. And so please tell us, what did you notice and why are we doing this?
So, I think that, there are some important things to consider here. From my perspective as a veterinarian, and as I said, weight loss coach, I think the first layer of that is all the pet owners that are coming to the vet. If we say some words like Fluffy, let's say Fluffy, because Fluffy is a real pet. Fluffy was 130 pounds Rottweiler. Strangely enough. So Fluffy existed at some point. So we say, oh, Fluffy is overweight. We need to do something about that. And then we leave. We drop the bomb and then we leave. And what happens, those are the circumstances. So what is usually happening with human bodies is that we have that punch. We feel that punch in our gut if our vet is telling us those words, because we think the thoughts, they shamed me, they shamed my pet, they are rude, they are obnoxious, how dare them,
Yep.
And the thing is that is a normal response from our bodies, because when we are triggered in that way, our brain will go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response, stress response. So if we are in fight or flight, we will create those anger, or angry thoughts. And then if we are in freeze or fawn, which are also normal stress responses from our brains, we tend to go into shame. What happens in both situations is that we cannot take in the information that is put out on the table. And that discussion with the pet owner is one of the clinical exam or the appointments that take the longest time for me as a veterinarian and life coach to navigate, because I am aware of how they might perceive what I am telling them. Why? Because human bodies were shamed and blamed since infancy. We have that internalized oppression and internalized fatism, that fat is bad always. And we don't want that to put that stigma on Fluffy's body as well, because we don't understand. Some pet owners, even if they have severely obese pets, they really don't get it. They don't. They don't get it. They don't see it. They genuinely don't see it. It comes as a surprise for them. So you really have to read the pet owner and to choose the right words, to know that their bodies might go into those stress responses and you have lost them totally, because they are not coming back. When people feel shamed, they usually disconnect and they don't come back, or they take it personally, So you have to be really, really careful how to put that, knowing that human bodies have been shamed, have been, all the time considered less than, or just lazy or whatever, because they are overweight. So
you really open up a can of worms with this whole, I'm just trying to help you and your pet, your cat or dog needs to lose a few pounds. And the can of worms is very much opened at that point.
Exactly. Yes. And another layer is that we love our pets unconditionally.
Absolutely.
And they love us unconditionally.
Yep.
They might be the only being on this planet who does that.
Yeah.
That includes parents, kids, whatever. So I even have an exercise that is based in brain science and neuroscience and mirroring neurons and, neuroplasticity with my clients, my weight loss clients, how to change your body image. And that involves looking at your pet or your pet's body, and then imagine that you are your pet and look at your body from your pet's perspective. And they don't care about your rolls or the fat tissue on your body. They don't care.
So don't care. Oh my God. They just love us. It's so,
and then just
so easy to imagine that.
Yes, to float into that and to see your body from their perspective, over and over again. Just do this exercise over and over again by looking at yourself in the mirror, just to shift your perspective about your body. And as I said, we don't want our pets to suffer. And that is another really insidious thought error, that I discovered even if in my weight loss clients, because we think the thought, at least they can have whatever they want. And I'm like, oh, so you don't. Or what are your thoughts about your food? You know,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts about what you have to, in quotes, to eat, how we believe that weight loss means restriction.
Yes.
And the diet industry, I was like PhD in diets, I think, for me, for sure. And we believe that the only way to lose weight is through severe hunger and to be deprived and to be restricted and to eat 2 molecules of kale and some water, which is not the case. But
and not that there's anything wrong with kale. But,
no, I love that. By the way, I adore kale, so it's nothing wrong with kale. So they project that idea that the pets are suffering if they can't get all the food, but if they are gaining weight, their bodies receive too much nutrition compared with their needs.
It's as simple as that.
Exactly. No, nothing wrong with that,
When you don't add all this extra thought to it, when you don't interpret it or project, as you mentioned, it's so interesting. I'm also thinking back. I'm pretty sure I shared this with you before, that my master's thesis was on the relationship between children and their pet dogs. And I remember one of the findings, I was talking to 12-year-olds. And specifically around the dinner table, because I had a memory of sitting around the dinner table. We had these high-backed vinyl chairs. So there was vinyl cushion and a high-back vinyl chair. And there was a space in between the cushion and the back of the chair. And I would shove any disgusting vegetable, in particular lima beans. If they were really gross, I would just take them and hide them in the cushion of the chair. If it wasn't something gross, or sometimes it was less gross, but I still deemed it to be gross, and the dog was sitting there, I would absolutely slide it off my plate and give it to the dog. And the thought was, I want my dog to feel included as an equal.
Exactly.
As an equal. And at that time, we bred St. Bernards, so it was a 200+ pound Mr. Jack. And and we had tons of dogs over the years. There was Duke and Fluffy and Brandy and oh my gosh, so many. And I fed them all. And most of the time, things I didn't like, but not only things I didn't like, because the back of the chair was where that stuff went. And then I would see my mom on the back patio hosing down the chairs on occasion. She knew what was going on. But yeah, so even as a young child, we love our pets and we think about them. There's a lot of anthropomorphizing going on with these pets. Lots of it.
Yes.
And
we tend to overhumanize our pets.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they are brilliant. Come on.
They are brilliant.
They are brilliant.
But they are training us a lot.
Yes, they are.
They don't have any other job than training us, or to learn how to trigger our responses. Dogs especially are really, so dogs are the most empathic beings. They made studies. They can read our emotions. They can mimic our emotions. Not creating by sophisticated thoughts, but they have a lot of mirror neurons that can mirror our mental state. So
my head's exploding. That's unbelievable.
Yes. So if you believe, for instance, about the dog's food that is disgusting or is not enough, or they will read that. They will feel those emotions, by the way, in their bodies through you.
Wow. So
it's quite fascinating to see. They are like a mirror for ourselves and for our internalized way of thinking or mindset. So
that's huge.
I think it's so important to understand as pet owners that dogs have not only, they depend on us, and we have to provide them the tools or the possibility to exert their natural healthy behaviors which include food and sleep, but not only that, people. So they need to run freely under supervision. They need to walk. They need to interact with other pets or other animals, other dogs, and other humans, to play by themselves, to play with other animals, to play with humans in general, because that is a rich dog life. It's not only about food and sleep.
And such a good reminder. You know what? I've got the cutest thing going on with Nico right now. So I have a little parrot, Dee Dee, and Dee Dee, well, she's persnickety, but she talks a lot. She's very cute. And Nico's very interested in her. So I will see sometimes on his own, he just comes over to her cage and seeks her out. He's seeking out interspecies communication with Dee Dee.
For sure. Yes.
And she comes down and they're having some kind of something going on between them, with his massive head and her little wee body. She's Quaker parrot.
Yep.
It's so cute. And he is seeking her out. And she doesn't like everybody. She likes me. She likes one of my sons. She used to like my husband, but I don't think she likes him anymore. And she likes Nico. It's so interesting.
Yes.
So that is really important, about thinking about the breadth of what helps a dog be its best self, basically, right?
And live a happy life. That doesn't mean that they need that food. If it's like data. Let's go back to data and take off that black judge robe and put on the medical white coat, the doctor brain, and think about data. If the data is telling us that Fluffy gained weight, and the vet is telling us that his body condition score, which is some scoring according to the shape of their bodies, which is quite amazing compared with humans. We don't go there right now.
No,
with just the BMI. But the body condition score for dogs, especially, it's adapted to their breed. So you cannot assess a whippet from a newfound body condition score, because that is not possible. So those are like from 1, which is really emaciated, really, really thin, and to 9. So the normal is between 4 and 5. And if your vet is telling you like, okay, Fluffy is at 6.5 or 7 in body condition score from 9, and we have to lose some weight, we have to do something about it. It's just data. Is no judgment in that. And they are a creature of habit, and they learn our habits. Think about Pavlov's dogs, how, that conditioned reflex was created with the bell and the food. So they will learn. They are so smart that they will learn the new routines if you are consistent with your behavior and not encouraging the behaviors that created that overweight. And be open to the idea that is, as in weight loss, that it's not a cookie cutter formula. Each dog or each cat are individuals, and they need their own amount of food or kind of food that your veterinarian will recommend for sure. And then you can play with that and give them more activities, give them more stimulation in other ways. You can give them, I usually tell my pet owners, you weigh the food that they are supposed to receive. It doesn't matter if it's dry food or wet food. There is a study that was made in Scandinavia. So we have to weigh the food. Otherwise, the percentage of error is too much. So weigh the food daily, or weigh the food for 1 week or for 1 month. And then you have that Ziploc bag with the amount of food.
Right.
And everything that goes into Fluffy's mouth, except for water, comes from that bag. and that's
Yep.
it. And then
Yeah.
reassess and reevaluate. And you are allowed to give them a lot of kisses and a lot of hugs if they are open to that. Not all cats or all dogs are
Right.
open to that. But you can interact with them. You can give them a lot of stimulation, a lot of playfulness, and you will for sure prolong their lives. And they will live a happier life than just overfeeding them. So,
Well, and in the
yeah.
midlife space too, it's such a big deal because I've talked about this a lot on the podcast. There's a concept, empty nest pets.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing. It is definitely a thing. So
Yes.
when the kids move out,
Mm-hmm.
we love to love. And if they're not
Yes.
available for,
Mm-hmm.
active, I'm not
Yes.
saying that we don't love our kids when we're gone. Of course we do, but they're not like in the house.
Mm-hmm.
They're not receiving it in the house.
Yes.
And we are not receiving the unconditional love.
Yes, of
The
course.
pets
Yep.
become such an important part of
Yep.
so
Yes.
many midlife women's lives. And of course, the research is there to show how important
Yes.
it can be.
Yes. Yes.
And so
Yeah.
it's so easy to load on the food the same way we
Mhm.
do when the kids come home. What do?
Mhm.
We make them all their favorite foods. We make sure that they leave with their favorite foods.
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah.
my kid's grandmother is doing the same thing. She's loading up the
Yes.
favorite foods, loading up the
Mhm.
freezer. When's that kid coming home? They're
Yes.
traveling on trains with
Mhm.
giant cooler bags.
Yeah,
of their
I know.
grandmother's food.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they love it.
Yeah.
And they love it.
Yeah.
So it's really, I'm so glad that you spoke about it because, and just to raise awareness that when your vet tells you that your dog or cat needs to lose a little weight, it's not about you in the way you
Mhm.
might be thinking. It is
Exactly.
about you in terms of you're the one deciding on the amount of food and the type of food and the
Mhm.
timing of the food. But
Yes.
it doesn't need to be about you the way you might be thinking if you didn't
Yes.
have this new awareness.
And I also mentioned that because it's important, I always take in the whole family that is responsible for feeding the dog or the cat.
Exactly.
Sometimes they are coming without the dog or the cat. Just to have an honest conversation, an open-hearted, human to human conversation, because that is hard. We know it's hard to lose weight and to maintain the weight loss after losing it. So that is an important and conversation to have with the whole family, because it doesn't matter if the dog's mom is coming and she's on board with that. If the dog's daddy is feeding the cookies to the dog, or if there are kids involved, or what happens is like the grandma or the grandpa
Exactly.
are overfeeding them, or the neighbor who is taking care of them during the day if you are at work or whatever. It's there are a lot of people involved. And I think that an honest conversation with that family involves being open to the idea that is a family project. It's not just on one person.
Yes.
And to have solutions even for grandma, grandpa, or the neighbor, because you won't make them change their minds if they want to, the afternoon tea. If Fluffy gets a cookie at the afternoon tea, they will still sneak that cookie, So
absolutely,
it's good to take into consideration the cookie, if it's really a cookie, and to cut off of their foods, which is not ideal, but or to just give them some of Fluffy's food to offer them at the afternoon tea.
That's so good. Yeah, exactly. That's so good.
Because they don't care.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. So, just to finish things off here, I just love what you had to say. And I know that I've seen this in some of your Facebook posts. The way you talk about what you're helping other veterinarians do is to help them find their sparkles.
Yes.
Just talk to me briefly about what that means to you.
So I think that idea came to me because I consider myself pretty sparkly myself. So I learned that about myself. I even call myself intermittently sparkly because
I love that.
because I watched the way I function, or, and I am really good with creating content or being, online and doing things. And then I need time to recharge and to reconnect with my intuition, with my femininity. It's not that linear type of marketing or the way I see it online, and I accepted that about myself. So I have those bursts of energy, and then I retreat and recharge my sparkles. So I love using emojis. I love using GIFs or GIFs or whatever.
However
I do
you
my
say
own
it.
GIFs.
Who knows?
Who knows exactly? I started to do my own GIFs, so it's so amazing. I love to have fun, and I love to connect with veterinarians that lost that spark, in their lives. And what I mean is that when they come to me and they learn those tools, they are pretty sparkly or creative persons as well. Some of them start to write books. Some of them are painting. Some of them are creating amazing projects, and they're really artistic persons. And all that spark was dulled by those mindsets that were on repeat, especially about their worth, their bodies, their abilities as vets. So that resonated with a lot of my vets. Like, okay, you used to be sparkly at some point, and now your sparkles are dull. So let's get your sparkles back. And they immediately understand what I mean.
Yeah, I do too. I do get that. So overall, your journey, as you've mentioned, is to connect with the humans to help the pets feel better and lose some pounds from their bodies in the process. So you're all about helping everybody lose some weight, the vets and the pets in their practice. And I want to make sure that we say specifically where people can get your new resource, Stop Emotionally Overfeeding the Pets. Where can we find that?
So they can find it on my website, is www.vetcoachinternational.com. Or to connect with me, I am at Vetcoach International all over the place, or at Nadina Cojocaru on Facebook and Instagram. So the resource is there, the training with the videos, with a worksheet that you can plug in the pet's weight, and then it will calculate how much weight are they allowed to lose per week. So it's really easy to help your pet. Actually.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing! And of course, I'll have all the links in the summary notes. Nadina, thank you so much for joining us today on the Women in the Middle.
Susie.
You had so much great information here, and there's really just a lot of insight about some pet-related topics that we may not have been aware of.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It was a blessing to connect with you.
You're the best.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it for this episode. What an amazing story, right? You really can't take courage or happiness for granted. I was absolutely fascinated about how Nadina reflected back to being a young child and making a decision like she did to be courageous no matter what. She had to be courageous to pursue happiness. It really makes you think about when you've been courageous and when you haven't been courageous. And going forward, how confident are you that you would pursue happiness with serious conviction? Then there's that whole weight loss topic and overfeeding your pets and the intersection of all of that. I wonder if you've been known to overfeed your pets at times, and if so, what you can take away from today's experience with the interview. If you want to learn more, just go to the show notes and get the link to Nadina's new training, Stop Emotionally Overfeeding the Pets. What can I say? I love bringing amazing women with a wide variety of experiences and expertise to the podcast for you to meet. Nadina is definitely the queen of her brain domain. All right. So as you know, this podcast is all about how to love your life again after 50. It's really all about coaching you to be more intentional and to incorporate mindfulness into your life as a regular practice. And mindfulness really is the key ingredient to regret-proofing your life. This is how you put you on the agenda. It's how you embrace becoming more responsible for your emotional well-being. It's how you get clarity again for what you actually want so you don't have regrets. It's how you become more intentional about the way you use your valuable time on this planet. As you know, my focus as your midlife coach is to help you get unstuck, clear, and excited about your life again. Like I said, the path forward is always to learn to think on purpose and take it one tiny but thoughtful step at a time. So ask yourself, are you ready to do this? Because if you are, I'm all in to help you do it. Seriously, if you're ready to change your life and learn the skills to unstick yourself with some masterful coaching, a top-notch curriculum, an infusion of creativity, and a warm, fun, and awesome community of like-minded women, let's talk about it. I would love to be able to help you get unstuck and create your own blueprint for happiness. You can absolutely be more fulfilled than ever before. So email me your questions and let's talk about it. Go ahead and book your momentum call at www.womeninthemiddleacademy.com. For show notes and links, head over to www.susierosenstein.com and click the podcast tab and look for episode 289. And if you're interested in applying to be a guest on my new upcoming podcast, Women in the Middle Entrepreneurs, head over to www.midlifeinterviews.com and apply. Thanks so much for listening. It's time for you to put yourself first, one thought at a time. I'm Susie Rosenstein, and I'll talk to you next week.